One thing is that we experience the awakening, and another thing is practicing the awakening state, having that feeling of, yeah, I just hit something new. I don't know what it is. I'm going to explore it. One of the things that I love about practicing this stuff is like through the method that is referred to as welcoming. Something disturbs you deeply. How do you welcome it? How is that allowing that experience versus resisting it?
That intention is set. And so then there's a trust that everything that comes to me is another opportunity to help me advance that way. You don't need a crisis. Take part in life in this awakening so that a crisis doesn't need to happen. Our intuition, that gets stronger with every act of trust in self.
Allowing the space for just being present with what is. A little bit more of heart openness. I started to experience this connection with everything and everyone and everywhere and all the time.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem to stop. Like it kept going. What I wanted to say to that is just feel free. Just feel freeing. It feels I don't have to try to be somebody. I don't have to try to go anywhere. Like all the experiences are here. There's no need to escape. There's no need to brace against the impact. It's just like take the life on fully.
If we're in that energy of resistance, we're closed off. That's going to lead blaming others, pointing out, victimhood. Our energy is our choice and our choice alone. When we're in it and we're in that belief, we'll fight for it and we'll defend our limitation.
Fight for a limitation and it's yours.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another Awakenware podcast episode. In today's episode, Tammy and I are going to talk about experiencing awakening through either the physical body, through the astral body, and through the mental body, or otherwise also can referring to through mind, through heart, and through gut. The awakening may feel slightly different being experienced through either of these bodies. And I want to also touch on what do we do after the awakening? How to practice that new state of being that has just up-leveled us. And let's just jump right in and see what happens. So Tammy, welcome back again. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure thing.
Yes.
My pleasure. So yeah, I was thinking of this because a lot of times when people have certain epiphanies about life and something changes in their life, typically is a big event when we have some sort of awakening. Sometimes the awakening seems to come from completely unexpected small event. But a lot of times it's like something big happens. We lose our job. We have our marriage fall apart. We have health crisis. And in these difficult moments that I would term difficult moments, we experience some epiphanies and some awakening, or what we refer to as awakening. To me, the biggest ones of them are around the heart. This is where I feel most humans feel stuck. Because as I pointed before, we tend to think about our feelings and not feel them. I feel like in a Buddhist tradition has promotes the awakening around the mind, around the understanding, like knowledge and something that makes sense and something that's scientifically proven, something that is also deeply spiritual and just makes sense. So that's one form of awakening, I would say, is that we can have that on a level of intellect. And another level, again, is the gut awakening, is where it's more about our nervous system, like what feels real. Like at some point, like you may realize that you are safe no matter what happens. Yes, you may get beaten up. Yes, you may get injured somehow. So you may feel not safe at times. If you're driving with someone who's driving like crazy maniac, you might not feel safe. But the awakening of the gut, it's more around the trusting that it doesn't all end with death of the body. So in a sense that there's some sort of a higher purpose, that there's some sort of a consciousness, some godliness, some divine power that is orchestrating this life. When we
Mhm.
get that experience that feels somewhat divine in reality, let's say you were in a car accident and somehow miraculously survived. You start having that gut awakening, this just nervous system upgrade. It's like, you know what? I was so close to death, and now I'm still alive, and I feel like I just like shedded the fear of death because it wasn't actually scary.
Mhm.
What felt scary was my thought of possibly dying. And this is like where we go into this whole ego is a construct. It's like it's not real. It's like if we go into what's real, so it's not the ego. It's needed here, obviously, for us to have this experience, but that's not what's real. And so that God awakening is has to me tied around this whole nervous system and understanding of our mortality and just making peace with that.
Mhm.
And that tends to bring up, deepen our intuition. It's like this gut, health kind of thing, and possibly could, improve your digestive system even because this is like from perspective of spiritual authors whose work I researched, is that the gut is has a lot to do with like your ability to digest not only food but digest life. So if we speak of digestion in general, it's like how do I digest life? Am I resisting it? Or
Mhm.
am I allowing it? Am I just like chewing it up? Are my organs inside capable? Are they healthy? Are they kept in optimal working conditions, right?
Mhm.
So from that perspective, the gut awakens by losing fear. And this is like when we talk about fear, oftentimes that's in this region of our body where the gut is. Like, that's where like when you feel fear, it's like, oh, my stomach and or that area around here. I think in Chinese medicine is actually like kidneys or something where the fear sits.
Yes.
It's that middle region. And then so of course then we talk about the heart space. And the heart space awakening, like I said, oftentimes happens around losing something precious to us, whether that's a life of someone, whether that's a life work, whether that's a relationship breakup, whether that's, uh, like losing your home or something like that. Those are super meaningful things. And this is where heart awakening oftentimes happens. Now, like I said, it doesn't have to be with a big event. It can be like, I was sitting in meditation and all of a sudden this just complete bliss came over me and nothing else changed. I was just sitting here, but all of a sudden my heart blew wide open. And so sometimes that happens. And what I wanted to speak to a little bit is like one thing is that we experience the awakening, and another thing is practicing the awakening state. Because when awakening happens, that means it's like it clears some debris out of our life that makes something in our mind, in our heart, in our emotions, in our body that makes clear sense, makes space for something new.
Mhm.
Like it's opened, like it's opening, like it's welcoming. And that's all in well, but if you continue to like live the life the way that you always have, the awakening happen, it's gonna dissipate back to like your default. So what the awakening does to me is that it brings us a whole nother level, and it's up to us to maintain that level. And I don't want to necessarily go up and down to make it like it's that's bad, that's good, or whatever. No, but just to demonstrate a little bit of that, it's like the more expansion kind of thing. It's like from the center, just more expansion. Having that feeling of, yeah, I just hit something new. I don't know what it is. I'm gonna explore it. Right. And so now practicing it. And so one of the things that I love about practicing this stuff is like especially through the emotional body, is the method that is referred to as welcoming. So it's not the welcoming just good emotions and good feelings and this is good and this is great, but it's like, okay, something that I don't necessarily like or something that I actually despise, let's say, something that doesn't you don't jive with, let's say. And then how do you welcome that? That's the practice. Like something disturbs you deeply. How do you welcome it? How is that allowing that experience versus resisting it? So Anything comes to mind from when I'm speaking to the experiencing awakening versus then, of course, also practicing the awakening and or through the gut, mind, and the heart.
Mhm. Yeah, a few things.
And how much time do we have? Let's see.
My heart's guiding me to first just talk about the foundational essence of trust within self, just to then advance into the experiences of life. So at the very beginning or base of it all, some sense of trust in, if I trust myself that I am setting out on a life path with clear intentions to always be advancing towards my highest good. That intention is set. And so then there's a trust that everything that comes to me is another opportunity to help me advance that way. Now, sometimes the help is, yeah, like a car crash, a big event. And I think that the events that come as the opportunities for us to awaken, I think they come in accordance with how strongly attached we are to the patterns that are not woken up yet.
Mhm, mhm,
For me, brain surgery and losing use of my arms, and I was speaking about it earlier, but that would be an example, a personal example of mine of coming into that when I couldn't lift my head, I couldn't use my arms, I can't physically do things. I couldn't do all the things that I would do to try to hope that I would receive what I wasn't giving myself. So the pleasing, the people pleasing, like the house is clean and the kids are happy and all the things that I might list out, that if all these things are done, then
mhm,
life can be peaceful for me. All those, if this is done, the checklist. Well, I couldn't do the checklist anymore. All right, well, now where are we? So there was no other option for me than to just be with me. I was literally just with myself. But I like to say, like, we don't need that to happen, is what I put out there to people and say to anybody that's listening. Like, you don't need a crisis. Take part in life, in this awakening, so that a crisis doesn't need to happen. Our intuition, that gets stronger with every act of trust in self. The ego is going to come in, but it's not going to be louder. And it's only going to be louder if our intuition's voice is not speaking up and using the full extent of what we have in our voice. I like to talk about and use the expression emotional diet,
mhm,
because what we eat is going to affect how we feel.
mhm,
And so if we have, like, for me, I have celiac, I am allergic to gluten. So if I eat gluten, I'll get sick. I can eat it if I want to, but
mhm,
I'm going to get sick. So if I go ahead and do it, that's my free will, that's my choice to do, but
mhm,
I am going to feel ill because of it. So we can make the choice not to do it, or we can make the choice to do it and then feel like a victim because we got sick, and then we're a victim because whatever, we can go down that whole rabbit hole. To me, that's sort of what comes first with the intention of awakening. We can start to get clarity by what we're eating emotionally, like what's happening around us. Where are we spending a lot of our time? What are we listening to on TV? And these are all just things that I do as an inquiry if a feeling of dis-ease comes. Because the dis-ease, I know we talk about it all the time, but it's just a pointer. The dis-ease, disease, pain, anything. It's just pointing us to something and saying, hey, something's a little off. And so we can cover it up and we can, push it aside. We can not deny it or whatever, but the awakening and that expansion happens when we welcome it, sit with it and say, okay, all right, it's uncomfortable. I don't necessarily like it, but what's here? And the sooner that we do that, the sooner clarity comes. And when clarity comes, the path clears. And then we advance, and we're always advancing into the highest. And so in terms of practices, first set the intention, make the choice that, you know, that we want to move towards our highest good. And then the practices would be those inquiries of, you know, what's happening around me? How am I spending my time? You know, when am I feeling like this? Just sort of like the inquiry of a diagnostically, you
Mm.
know, like a doctor would do with symptoms. You know, okay, this is what you're feeling. Okay, you know, well, where were you? What did you eat? Did you travel? Did you eat something different? Whatever the case may be. But the body within it, all of that together is going to establish what the nervous system is doing, because the nervous system is going to show us that there's a problem somewhere. But the inquiry into each separate mind, body, spirit, that's going to get distinguished when we do that inquiry, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so self-inquiry is very powerful tool. As you said before, also in whether it's a mirror work, whether it's a self-inquiry journaling, those are all
Mhm.
superpowering tools that would help with practicing, obviously, this new state of being that you have really unwrapped, kind of like a new gift
Mm.
in a sense. There's a lot to be said about internalizing or doing this work through the internal perception, and not that it's we can't externalize. Yes, it all begins internally in some sense.
Mhm.
We receive thought depending on what patterns of thoughts we are used to receiving. Similar to like, when you have on your phone, you start following certain people, and then those kind of things are going to start showing up on your feeds, right? So similarly with your brain, whatever you have fed your brain throughout your life is what you're going to perceive. So if you have perceived throughout your life, feeling of being unsafe with your parents in the youth, or perhaps there was constant lies, and or perhaps there was actually a pleasant growing up with that you'd had. So you had, maybe teachers that were or that felt mean, or experience with your friends. Maybe there was some difficulties there. Wherever did you find something that was difficult?
Mhm.
Notice that the meaning was assigned by you alone. Yes, the situation was presented certain way, but
Mhm.
every person included in that situation, let's say that you had some experience with the teacher. So there was a bunch of other students in the class, but you decided in that moment, particular moment, the teacher said something and you felt something within you that you gave a meaning, and now you feel so like the teacher is bad or whatever. But some
Mm.
other kid next to you, something else the teacher said, they assigned it to something very positive, and then they had experienced at the same time you had experienced the opposite in some sense. We are filtering all these experiences, so this is why I'm saying it's always the inner work.
Yeah.
So as we go through this inner work, noticing like after the awakening or a awakening that may have happened, you're still practicing within. Really, it's all part of the mind in a sense, because mind is the one that's assigning the meaning through feelings and emotions, and then things manifest. And
Yeah.
like you said, from the opposite end, the influence is what we ingest physically through our body.
Mhm.
So like if we ingest a lot of sugars, a lot of alcohol, a lot of all sorts of poisonous plastic kind of stuff, or foods that are, GMO treated or whatever, it's going to alter our physiology. And then in that sense, our ability to utilize the fullness of the system is going to be
Mhm.
impeded. It's like you're not going to be able to utilize the fullness of this ability of this body. Same way as if you inundate your computer with like 20 open tabs on the browser, and you start up some program that's going to eat up all the RAM, and is going to be running on high, and now all the fans in the computer are going like crazy, and now it's starting to cool down because there's so much going on. Same way with your body. If you tire it out, then it's of course going to take a longer to process any information. It's going to take it may not even happen that you notice something. But if your body is less impeded by these kind of things, then you have far better chance to actually have a fuller experience of this life. And by fuller, I mean literally not just greater in sense that more pleasurable, but you will start recognizing that even the non-pleasurable stuff is part of your full experience and you will just go with it. And with the lack of resistance in that,
Mhm.
life will feel more full.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking as you were talking, I was thinking about you said gift, and I thought about like some gifts we receive and we unwrap and they look a little cool, but like maybe it's a game
Mm,
that we don't know how to play yet.
mm,
So we could say, "No, I don't want this," and give it away or something and say, "Oh, I don't know," or "I don't think I like that," you know? I don't or clothes. No, you know what? I don't like that kind of a shirt style, so I'm not gonna even try it on. But if we tried it on, we might find out like, "Oh, no, this looks good," and, "Oh, it's really comfortable," or a different material. And so I think the greatest gift and encouragement that I would always wanna give is open it up and give it a minute. Like, open it up and look. Give time to have the experience of whatever's coming, because it might not be I mean, look, sometimes the things come and we know right away, and it's so clear, and we're like, "Oh, that's why that just happened," and, "Oh, I knew that," and it lines right up and dot, 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 and we can connect all the dots of everything we've done and all our prayers and our journals and everything. "Oh, yep, I know why that happened," and it's great, and that happens a lot, but in the beginning, when we first start, it's not always like that. And so it can be hard, especially now, there's so much. There's social media and we can look and see all these experiences and things. And so how things happen for this person. And so then we go try and we're like, well, all right, well, I've been at it for a while and, it's not happening to me like that, So, and we might give up or we might even shame ourselves and say, well, there must be something wrong with me. Maybe I'm a bad person because I'm not having all these enlightening experiences and I'm trying really hard. It can be really easy to feel that way in the beginning, especially if we're in a lot of pain and we're really like trying to get out of pain. We're trying to heal and we're in pain. It's the surrender. Surrender and let awareness just take over and drive for a while. And then like we would going on a long trip and someone else is going to drive, so we're a passenger, but we trust that driver. So we can sit there, we can close our eyes, we can relax. We don't have to worry, about how they're driving or if they know how to get there. We don't have to do anything. And so
mhm,
just imagine that you're you're gonna take this journey and there's somebody else driving that knows the way. They know how to drive, they're taking care of the gas, they've maintained the vehicle. Nothing. You don't have to worry about anything of the workings of the vehicle or how you're getting to the destination. So you can just sit there and be aware and you can watch. And so we sit there in life and just like on a trip, road signs come up and they point us and they give us options. So we know where we want to go. And so we might see things like, "Oh, let's stop there. We have all the time in the world. There's no rush. You don't have any deadlines. So you can pull off any exit you want and go look.
mhm,
Anything that intrigues you, you can go look." And then if you imagine even further that not only is there somebody driving that has complete control that you completely trust to drive, you can sit there in your awareness, but every choice that you make, every exit you want to get off is going to be a part of your highest good. And you know that as much as you trust the driver, you trust that any exit you take, anywhere that you go, there that it will in some way feed your journey to your highest good.
mhm,
That is what life is like.
mhm,
Now, we take the exit, there might be rough roads, there might be potholes, it might be bad weather, there might be a traffic jam, the road might be closed, we might have to turn around and go the other way, we might get a flat tire. things can happen. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you're not still going towards your highest good. So maybe you're going, maybe you get a flat tire and maybe you learn how to change a tire. Maybe you've never had to change one before and you kind of know, but maybe you've never had to change one before. So, okay, you learn how to change a flat tire. All right. Well, now you're more self reliant because you know how to change a tire. I could come up with different scenarios all day. I think, everybody gets the point, but that baseline trust that everything is for your highest good. And you're doing it from a sense of self-worth. I am worthy. And we say to ourselves when we make the intention, I am worthy of living the highest version of myself. I am a divine, loving person created in divine love. Everything is limitless. Abundance is limitless. And so when you know that and you trust that, all the things that might happen along the way as we awaken, so they're all just things to help us grow. But when we commit to this level of awareness, we're aware of all parts of us, the mind, the body, that we're aware of everything. There's nothing we're not aware of.
Hmm.
But it's in a state of trust and openness and excitement for the highest good.
Yeah.
So there's no fear. So now we
Yeah.
can just keep going and fear is removed.
Yes. And, while the fear can serve its purpose as well, and it does,
Mhm.
to allow us to learn whatever we are here to learn, if it, at the point of realization, like one of the awakenings that I'd had was that I am not, oh, this sounds cliche. I'm not this body. I'm not this mind. I'm not this, these emotions, these feelings. I have those,
Mhm.
but I'm not those. But then, like, who am I kind of thing? It's like,
Mhm.
further I dissected it. And then if I say I dissected it, who dissected it?
Ooh,
You know?
yeah.
It's like, so that's still the ego part of the self, is
Mhm.
that ego wants to try to define, ego wants to try to
Mhm.
compare or put a value on the top of something, or say, I'm valuable, or perhaps the ego will say I'm not valuable, and all sorts of things. So
Mhm.
while the being that we are just is, as boring as it may sound, that's the experience. That's where the experience comes
Mm.
through that beingness. We're
Mhm.
human beings, obviously. That's also, I know, cliche, but I'm just pointing out the obvious stuff right now. So just to
Yeah.
connect the dots a little bit as we go into the yes, the part of me that associates myself with this physicality is
Mhm.
the ego part. Not wrong, not bad, is what it is, kind of thing. It's the
Right.
avatar, it's a role kind of thing. Fine. Has many masks. And another part is that I'm also part of, like, everything,
Mm.
everyone, everywhere, all the time. There is no separation from anyone to anyone. With that understanding, truly, if you challenge that understanding within you,
Mhm.
if you trust that you're part of everything and everyone, and you go out there in the world and you interact with people who make your avatar feel worried, unsafe, scared, whatever,
Mhm.
can you still retain the trust that, you know what, I remember I'm this whole being. And from that perspective, I'm not separate from this person. So
Mhm.
whatever they're experiencing isn't right, isn't wrong, isn't bad, isn't good. It is what it is. Is my avatar liking what they're experiencing? Let's say no. Then I will remove myself from that situation. Okay. If I can. If I
Right.
can't, I will sit with that and obviously say or do or, be somehow that where it will affect their field more so than I will get affected by their low energy. So, for
Right.
perspective, now is it easier said than done? Yes, absolutely. When you feel something physically hurt, the bandwidth of the system is lesser. So there's a less
Mhm.
ability to process. But what remains in the end of that, or under everything, is this quiet
Mhm.
steadiness, and that's more you than anything else you think you're you. That quiet steadiness at the background. I can't tell you the amount of time I've taken now cold showers for the last, I don't know, 6 years every day, 7 years, whatever it is. I don't want to go into the cold shower because I know it's freezing cold, especially like in the winter. But
Hmm.
yet I do that, and every time I stay there until I feel like I don't mind.
Mm. Hmm.
And that's where the ego breaks off. It's like, okay, fine, hit me with your best shot kind of thing,
Yeah.
you know? And so you just let go.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
feeling has such power in it. And
Hmm.
so one of the reasons that I keep doing it is because I remind myself of that power.
Hmm.
That's the only thing really that can.
Yeah, it makes me think of like stay past the break in the wave. The only suffering is of course of the mind, but the suffering is in the feeling of separation.
Yes.
That's where suffering lives.
Yes.
It's when we feel separate from the love that we want from somebody that we feel like we're not getting, that we're attached to, that we chase, because we think in the getting of it, we will then have the peace that we desire. But the awakening is we already are the peace. We were created as the peace. There's nowhere to get to and nothing to get. The suffering is in the belief that we are separate from it in the first place. And
Exactly.
so that's, of course, listen, I'm not going to sit down and say that to someone who comes to me who's in the experience of trauma or that's deeply in crisis.
Right.
It's not going to be the first, explanation that I give them and send them off and tell them to go meditate. I'm going
Yeah.
to sit through it. And so as a guide, a coach, a friend, anything, I believe that all that I do and all that really anybody needs is somebody to sit with them and say, here's the path, and then walk with it. And I'll hold my light for you, but you go ahead and walk. I'll stay
Hmm.
with you.
Hmm.
I'll hold my light for you and
Hmm.
point until you remember that you have yours. And
Hmm.
then until you remember that you can hold it yourself.
Hmm.
And then until you remember that you don't even have to hold anything. You can be
Hmm.
hands free because you are the light. But like
Hmm.
that unfolds.
Hmm.
Just saying, no, you are the light. Go ahead, just shine, just go shine and just
Hmm.
just go shine in life and you'll be okay.
I love that.
We don't know. And so, I don't tell anybody what to do. I don't tell anybody what's wrong. I just sit there and then along the way, I just point out their perceptions of blocks because I know they're not really there. I know that they're not really there, but they believe they're there.
Yeah.
So for the person that believes they're there, I'm going to stay and they need to stay long enough to see that it's not really there. They need to blink a few times and get clarity so their eyes aren't blurry anymore from the fear and the past actions of trying to deny stuff because denial creates that film
Hmm.
over everything. When that denial has been there for so long, that film is thicker. And so the staying, to your point, stay long enough. We got to stay for that to dissolve. We are the light, but we're the heat that melts it away. If the film were ice and the love that we are is warmth, then if we stay long enough with it, it's going to melt. The heat from us is going to melt it. We don't have to go fight the monsters and prove the denial wrong and bring facts and evidence. Life is not a courtroom that we need to bring all the evidence and then battle it out and debate what's true. Love
Right.
is true, period, end of story. That's it. Done.
Yes.
So the process isn't to gather enough evidence and gather enough facts about what's wrong. That's what we do when we go and we talk over and over without turning towards love. And we're just gathering all that, especially in relationships that end. If we're in pain, okay, are we going to go and set out to prove everything that was wrong with the other person? And this is why it didn't work out? Because look at everything that's wrong. Well, now we're just living in everything that's wrong. And we're everything that's wrong because we're the ones speaking it. So we are it now because we are whatever we speak of, whatever we do is what we are. And so we say, oh gosh, I just can't seem to heal. And then, oh, my next partner was the same and seems to keep being the same thing. And it seems like I'm in all of them. So,
Mhm.
right. And we realize this. And if we can do that, again, do that with love. Like, we don't need to blame ourselves. We don't need to imprison ourselves either. So, not collecting evidence about what's wrong with the world and why we're at dis-ease, but nor do we send ourselves and imprison ourselves into the sentence that, fits our, the offense that we've made in life of how wrong we are. Like, there's no judge and jury and there's no courtroom. We can let all that go and just stay with it and be with it. And it always, 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 always will show you the best. There's always an answer and there's a gift in it. Every
Mhm.
single time, without a doubt, always.
Mhm. I love the analogy that you used there for how you assist people. It's like though you bring light and just be with them in light to let them awaken to the fact that they have the light. I love that. That's
Yeah,
that's
I'm
so
just here to
beautiful.
remind people who they are. That's all I'm
Yeah,
here for. That's all I
yeah,
do.
yeah.
That's it.
It's like you show people what's possible by being the example again. It's like I know this again, cliche. Yeah, be the
Yep,
example that you want to see in the world, right?
yep,
So like if we engage in anti-war, I'm anti this and that, whatever, that's what you're gonna get more of is that,
yes.
whether
Whatever
you
you're
are
trying to
anti.
be anti, you
Yeah.
are it.
Yeah, so just the learning about the connection that you already have, the being that you already are,
Yeah.
understanding and trusting that, and
Mhm.
the quiet presence that love is. Like you said
Yeah.
in some of the other episode also, is that love doesn't shout. It just like quietly stands there or stays there and accepts. That's what it does. It accepts and moves on, with whatever experience there is. So it just
Mhm.
gives love just is love with fear. Love is love with love. Love is love with annoyance, with frustration, with anger. Love is
Mhm.
love with patience, with joy, with whatever. And it just is. And
Mhm.
the interesting thing about fear is that while it's necessary,
Mhm.
it's often denied by the mind. What I wanted to point to briefly is that, especially in my family as I was growing up, it was shameful to admit that you're scared of something.
Uh,
So if I say that, yeah, that's okay. That's just, I see that you're just afraid of that. And then a response would be, I'm not afraid, kind of thing. The denial of the emotion of the fear could be there. It's like somehow it's going to mean that you're weak, that somehow it's
mhm.
going to mean that you're less than someone else. So it cannot possibly be that you could have some fear because you would be less than. And that's the fear itself, in a sense.
Yeah.
So you have a fear of the
Mhm.
fear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like there's wrongness attached to fear.
Exactly, exactly. Like there's a wrongness meaning shame, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
if I was wrong, there would be something wrong with me. Or if I had fear, there would be something wrong with me. That means that I should be ashamed of that, right?
Mm.
And so this is what that's just the construct, though.
Yeah.
The ego construct is saying that that's what truth is, isn't, but
Right.
that's what the ego thinks that it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to a little bit into summarize some of this mind and heart space and gut awakening experiences that we lived through. One of the things that had awakened me into understanding my own strength, my own power,
Mm.
in sense that something had to break. And so in my case, it was the heartbreak, and that like spawned a whole nother development. It's almost like
Mm.
I had this image like my heart shattered into pieces, and I patiently glued one piece, next piece, next piece, next piece, put it back together, and now it feels like it's even stronger. And so in that's like, okay, I survived that.
Mhm.
And then it felt like, yes, now it feels stronger. So that was
Mhm.
the awakening initially, and it evolved over time into, hey, this happened to my avatar. This happened with this being. I don't even
Yeah.
want to say to my avatar. It happened with
Yep.
that being that I am.
Mhm.
And I'm the source. I'm part of that source. This is just a story. This is just a partial experience
Yeah.
that I could look at as something to resist, or that I could look at something to accept and welcome.
Mhm.
And we always have that choice,
Yep.
always. And you can spend your life resisting anything and everything. They did me
Mhm.
wrong.
Yeah.
They did something, I don't like that. Doesn't feel safe. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna go with them. They are that. I'm not. So like you can like resist life as much as you want to. That's what you're going to receive. You're gonna
Yeah.
receive what you resist. So allowing the space for just being present with what is.
Mhm.
And to me, like what happened in my case scenario in this is I started to experience with that little bit more of heart openness. I started to experience this connection with everything and everyone
Mhm.
and everywhere and all the time.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem to stop. Like it kept going. Yeah, like it's ever expansive. There's no
Mhm.
stopping. And again, I know I don't even want to like try to define it too much because it just is an experience of purity in some sense. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
just is what it is and no label needed. But
Mhm.
what I wanted to say to that is just feel free. Just feel freeing. It feels I don't have to try to be somebody. I don't have to try to go anywhere. Like all the
Yeah.
experiences are here
Mhm.
through this avatar. Wherever I go, yes, there I will be. Doesn't matter. There's no need to escape. There is no need to brace against the impact. It's just like take the life on fully. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all about where our focus goes. So if we're resisting, if resistance is our focus, then that means that then if we're choosing that as our focus, the resisting, denial, resist is block, close off.
Hmm.
So that means that the energy in which we are living with, that we're choosing, the energy of ourselves, that's going to be what determines our life experiences. And so all parts of life are going to come in and merge with the dominant energy and focus. So if it's resistance, what that means is then our experiences, interactions, people, places, and things are going to come that fit in the resistance energy. Okay, so that means that relationships that cause us to resist them will come to us. So, whatever it is we're resisting, facing, allowing to turn into love, we're calling in more of it because that's what our energy is. That's whatever our energy is what's a magnet. And so if we're in that energy of resistance, we're closed off. That's going to lead blaming others, pointing out, victimhood. And the opposite of what we want, probably what we want is to experience love, is to be with people and we'll want that experience. But if we're the energy of resistance, it can't come because it's a closed door. So not only are we closing other people off that are love, it's a solid steel plated door with many padlocks on it. It's like the longer we do it, the stronger the bolts that hold it closed. This is why we never are victims, to your point earlier, because everything is a choice. Our energy is our choice and our choice alone. The universe, God, there is nothing the highest that can change our free will of the energy that we choose. And so, again, back to like evidence, there's not enough evidence that we could present that the universe, whatever we see as highest, could come and say, well, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you have enough evidence. You're right. You're a victim. like, okay, and get a what, the stamp of approval that, yeah, yes, we're, yay, I'm a victim. See, I got proof. Oh, all right. So what? You're
Woohoo.
happy because now you got somebody to validate victimhood, like,
Yeah.
and so because when we're in it and we're in that belief, we'll fight for it and we'll
Yeah.
defend our limitation because we believe it. That's who we are.
Yeah.
If
Fight
we're
for a limitation and it's yours.
yeah, it won't fight back. And like you said, yeah, love will not raise its voice. It's like love is truth, true is love. So if we're standing in truth, we're not going to waste our energy on defending ourselves. We're not going to even allow ourselves to be in a position with somebody trying to dismantle that. I mean, I always use the really outlandish, funny um, image for that, like of if somebody, walked up to me and said, Tammy, your purple hair is just, it's so ugly. God, it's so offensive to look at your purple hair. It's so outlandish. It's so untrue
Hmm.
that am I going to stand there and argue with them and try to prove to them that my hair is not purple?
Yeah.
No. But isn't it the same thing? If someone directly, indirectly says something, anything other than that your love and all of the loving things about us and all of that, if anything else comes in, isn't it the same thing? Why believe it? Why would we take the time to fight the fight and protest it and like just let it fade away? They'll go away. In a position with someone, if somebody's being abusive or really loud, and if we return and we yell, well, then everybody's going to just start yelling louder and louder and louder. If one person has a weapon, then the other one's going to go get a bigger one because we got to win the fight. What are we fighting about? Well, I don't really know, but I got to fight this. All right. Is there any fight that's worth it? Like, where's your right? Like, if we all could get deep into like who we are on this basic level, how do you want to spend your time? Back to the diet, the emotional diet. Where is the belief in a lower sense of worth of self that we would sit and take part in the debates and the fights of life, like whatever they might be for us? If they're not serving our highest good, and I'm not talking about difficult conversations because, look, with our most beloved people, there's conflict and there's tough conversations
Yeah.
and maybe even hurt feelings and all of that. Yeah. But if we're sovereign in who we are and we're grounded in that, we're going to know which ones are worthy of us staying for it, and staying for the really hard conversation that, two people are in and maybe trying to make a big decision for their lives and family. And, they stay up all night, like debating and talking it out and just hashing everything out. We can decide if that's worth it or not, but we can't do that unless we're grounded in um, that the truth of who we are. But only we can find that. Nobody can give it to us. Nobody can, sit and tell us what that is. We find it as we wake up. That's how we find it in the process of waking up. It's not, okay, I hope one day I wake up and I have all these answers of sort of knowing myself. No, it's in the waking up. The process of waking up is when it all happens. It's not one moment. It's being in it and in the process of it. And that's what we surrender into and um commit to. That's the investment in ourselves. There's no greater investment that we could ever make than that. And if we believe that, if we believe that value of ourselves, that we are this and we are love and we are worthy of that, then we'll stop at nothing. We'll stop at nothing and we'll never waste any energy on anything other than that could potentially hurt someone else or ourselves. It's just we make different decisions when we know who we really are and we know the depth of the love that we are and the purpose that we have in this world. And that realize there's nothing that can stop that. Nothing.
100% for sure.
Yeah.
I love everything you're saying there. Yeah. And then, some people may ask, well,
Mm-hmm.
how do I know? Like, how can I be in that space of knowing who I am, right? And I've asked the question for many years of myself and, searched in some sense for the answers to that question. And it came in all sorts of forms. Bottom line is that knowing really comes from the realization that we are truly connected to the source that is endless. And,
Mm-hmm.
you can choose to not believe that, you can choose to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, whether you come to that conclusion through extreme logics and mathematics and scientific experiments, or you come to that conclusion through some heartfelt experience, or some
Mm-hmm.
sort of body's nervous system input, or something changes physiologically, whichever way you come to that conclusion, I can't tell you what the truth is. It's like, you feel it for yourself, you find it for yourself, and that's the beauty of this game, is that you get to explore it, like you were saying, you can carry a light for other people to guide them certain far. At some point, they realize, wait, I have that same light. Let me try to turn that on. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
At some point, they realize that,
Yeah.
hey, I have that same light. This is great. And then
Yeah.
at that point, it's like, whatever, you'll shine light on everything. And
Yeah.
as soon as you shine a light on everything, it just dissolves.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. This is like
Yeah.
dissolves, and it's okay. But the
Yep.
experience stays. It's like, yeah, that was difficult
Mm-hmm.
as hell. Yeah, that was
Mm-hmm.
really fun. Yeah, that was super scary. I won't do that again. Or that was super scary and I want to do that again.
Yeah.
It's like you have all sorts of experiences and those are all valid.
Yeah. I like to say, like the way to know it is to release the defining it or comparing it.
Yeah,
It's like, well,
I like
how do
that.
you know how do you know that you can walk? By doing it.
Yeah.
When the experience of having it even just a little bit, when we can be open to it, believe it before you can see it, rather than believe it when you see it, which is kind of the point. Like that's the big secret, and the trick is that it's actually the experience of the letting go, unlearning, however we want to say it, of everything that we thought was it.
Hmm.
And it's actually in doing nothing.
Hmm.
It's in the surrender. It's like we say that when we were talking about staying with ourselves, that's what forms trust. And when we have trust, like my example about the trusting the journey, trusting the driver, and then having the awareness. So the trust needs to be there, but the way that the trust in self comes is by the staying. You know, Last week we talked about mirror work. Like that's one of the reasons I say, like, yeah, sit in the mirror and say I love you when you wake up and you're like discombobbled and your face is puffy and you're just whatever. And if you're a woman and you didn't take off all your makeup the night before and you got makeup done, like, acknowledge yourself at the least favorable moment. you know Tell yourself you're doing a great job when you made a huge mistake at work. Like, things like this can start to those are examples I'll give to people when they're just starting to find that full love, which is full self-acceptance without no conditions, like full unconditional self-love. It can grow by exercises like that. Like I said, when you make a mistake, praise yourself for immediately, like, yeah, okay, acknowledge it, of course, but then think of something that you did like really well. When you feel like you failed at something, immediately bring back to your memory a time when you just excelled and shocked yourself in the world at what you did. get to something and give an example, back it up, because that's what'll happen in the beginning. You get these like, oh yeah, no, the ego will go, yeah. The ego says, what do you who
The,
do you think you are?
the whole
That's
stories, gamut of stories is there,
that's
right?
yeah, that's BS.
Mm,
So in order to like negate the ego telling you that it's BS, you show it another story of your own self and life experience is what how I'll sort of share it with people. Go
yeah.
back and find something that you did really well, or that just that you're proud of.
Yeah.
Like the practice I use with life resume, that's one I usually give in the beginning to people, because
Mm,
you're writing out, why are you worthy of this life, rather than a job. Do it just like for a job. Why? What
mm,
makes you the person to live this fantastical life that you're talking about, on this in this light and love and this joy that we're all talking about? Like, who are you to live this? Why should you have it? And think about what you do right. Like, put it on down on paper. That'll start to shift it a little bit and open the door to see, oh, well, maybe I can. And it doesn't take long. Love is really powerful and really strong. It doesn't take long. Once you open that door, love will come through. It just needs a crack. Just open it a crack.
mhm.
And love will come in and fill up the whole space. It'll get in the tiniest little crack, but we're the only ones that can open that door
Yeah.
with our intention. But it'll flood in. You don't need to define it, prove it to anyone. Just be still and be like, well, it sounds good, and let that be enough.
Mhm.
Like, let that be enough to convince us, just like anything we never thought we'd be able to do or never thought would be possible, but it's happening. I mean, look around the world and think of the things that are happening. I mean, we're sitting here right now. You're in Colorado, I'm in New York, and we're sitting here having a call face to face. Like,
Mhm.
wow, there was a time when this wasn't possible, but somebody
Yeah.
thought it might be,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Just
Exactly.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you're speaking, one thing that came to me when you do something and you mess something up, let's say, and then one of the things that I've heard recently or fairly recently by Joe Hudson was that he was saying, "Yeah, of course, I would mess it up. Yeah, it's okay.
Mm,
It's okay that I messed it up. Sit with that. So like I was saying earlier, sitting with all emotions, not just the
mhm.
good ones, the ones that we want, but the ones that are less than fun to sit with. Sit with those as well. It's like, yeah, I messed up.
Yeah.
Okay, of course I messed up. There's a lesson in that. So,
Yeah.
and then once you sit with that and you allow that lesson to be there, you don't even have to uh, try to fix anything at that moment. Just for the moment, just sit with that. You know what? Yeah, of course I messed up. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. And then
Yeah.
something will come to you. If there is a way to fix something, yeah, you will fix it. And if something that if it doesn't feel fixable at the moment and it
Yeah.
doesn't require immediate attention, maybe you'll say something like, okay, well, the right thing comes to me whenever I need to change something to fix it.
Mhm.
Right. And it's less about fixing life, I feel, is less about fixing or pointing at something rather than just feeling it.
Yeah.
And, the ego does not want to be helped, does not want to be fixed, does
Mhm.
not want to be killed either. It
Mm-mm.
just wants to be held.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
that's all that it is. Like if you heard one thing in this whole podcast, again,
Yeah.
sit with all emotions. Allow all of
Yeah.
them to be there. Be with
Mhm.
them like a best friend. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes we have that shitty person that we're stuck with for a moment,
Mhm.
and we're just going to like listen to them, vent or something. Or sometimes it's a great friend, and then they're upset and they need to just vent, and you're just gonna sit with them. You're gonna say, yeah, of course, yeah,
Yeah.
that sucked. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Right? So sitting with it, acknowledging it and recognizing, reflecting upon
Mhm.
or just being with it, really. Like I say, I love
Yeah.
the words that you say. It's like just be with it.
Yeah. If we give all our emotions the unconditional love that we're craving,
They just
Problem
pass.
solved.
They just pass. They just disappear.
They just want love.
Yeah.
Love dissolves it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unconditional love.
Yeah,
That's
so this is the practice really. So I know
yeah.
we've taken up whole hour by talking about like how to practice awakening, but
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
practice is innate. Like whatever happens in your life, notice especially obviously the difficult things and then welcome them. Literally,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, of course you're here. The sadness, the grief, the pain, the suffering, the of course I'm suffering right now. Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I'm feeling this pain. It really hurts. Yeah, of course it hurts. Sit with that pain. Be with it until it dissipates, until it just goes
Mhm.
away. And if you have a thought in the meantime that, hey, you know what? I could probably do this and it could probably get fixed,
Yeah.
then do that,
Yeah.
because
Yep.
that's the solution. And yeah, so
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you again so much, Tammy, for
Mm.
hanging with me.
Yep.
Always such a pleasure. And
Yes.
I'll look forward to seeing you again next time.
Mm.
Everybody out there, and
Mm.
stay awake, stay aware, and take
Thank
good
you.
care. Thank you again so much for spending time with Tammy and myself. We'll look forward to hearing from you in comments. If you have enjoyed this episode, like it, subscribe if you haven't yet, so you are notified about further episodes that we're going to be shooting. I'm looking forward to another episode, and until then, stay awake, stay aware, take good care.